a couple of announcements before we get started with today's project. I'm going to show you a card, and then I'm going to remake that with you, showing you two different fun folds that I think you're really going to like. And first announcement, happy Veterans Day to all of our veterans and active duty military. Or if you are a military family, a military spouse, son, daughter, grandma, whatever, thank you also, because I know that military families and veteran families sacrifice a lot as well. So thank you all. Today is the last day to sign up for these two classes to go, the Peaceful Nativity, super pretty cards, and then the things keep popping up on my screen here, and then the Snow Wonder class as well. This is a little bit hard to see, so just 3 snowman cards in 3 different color schemes using the Snowflake Splendor, and there is some Stampin' Up! Product that comes along with that class. If you need information, you can find it in my newsletter that I sent out today, which I also posted to stampinpeace.com, and you can also find it on my blog. And if you still can't find it, you just message me and I will send you an email with the links so you can get all the information. But today is the last day. This evening, tonight, midnight, last chance to sign up for those. The other announcement I have is that I'm sure many of you watching may have already seen, but I'm super excited to say that I ranked number 76 among, I believe, approximately 40,000 demonstrators in the United States. So I'm super proud of that. And then I was very pleasantly surprised to learn that I also rank number 117 globally, and that's approximately 60,000 demonstrators. So I'm really, really proud of my hard work and my determination and perseverance, and I continue to work just as hard and stay motivated and keep learning so that I can keep sharing awesome creative projects with all of you and building my team as well. So in gratitude for that, I would like to offer a gift to customers, and that is over the next 3 days, I'm offering an ordering incentive, and you can get free handmade cards from me. And I have loads of them, and I thought, gee, rank number 117. Wouldn't it be awesome if I could give all of you purchasers 117 handmade cards? I don't have that much in my stash, but I do have enough to give purchasers a good number. So over the next 3 days, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, if you purchase $35 or more in product, I will give you 9 handmade cards. I'll drop those in the mail to you. I've already started making up some packets to be ready. And if you order $50 or more, you'll get 17 cards. So 9 cards, that's the 1 plus 1 plus 7 to come up with 9 for a $35 to $49 order, or 17 cards with a $50 order. So the numbers are a little odd and funky, but that is the meaning behind the 9 and the 17. All right, so that'll be Thursday through Saturday. I ask you to use the host code. And if you're not sure where to find the host code, it's always on my newsletters, usually at the top and the bottom. It is on the home page of my online store, that website, www.maryknabe.stampinup.net. And you can also find it on the home page right-hand column of my blog. stampinpeace.com. So in case you don't know why I ask you to use the host code, that helps me get Stampin' rewards through the month that I then use to purchase Stampin' Up! Products or trade them in for Stampin' Up! Products so that I can give away monthly thank you gifts to customers, have gifts to give away to my team, do some occasional giveaways during my Facebook Lives and other events. So that's why I ask you to use the host code when you are placing an order online. And one note about that, though, is if you are ordering $150 or more yourself online, do not use the host code because I want you to get the Stampin' rewards for that big order. Of course, if you're spending that much, I'm going to say, why don't you simply buy the starter kit? Because number one, I would love to have you be a part of my amazing group of Stampin' Up! Demonstrators. We're called the Merry Stampers, and we're all about just sharing and having fun and friendship and learning together. There's no pressure to sell, but it's a great way for you to definitely get more bang for your buck and to continue getting a 20% or more discount on all of your future purchases. Okay, so who's ready for tonight's project? Here's a quick peek before I flip my camera around. We got some embossing, and then I'm going to show you, we're going to case this card, and I'll show you two different fun folds. So hang on, I'm going to flip my camera now. Pretty good. I'll get my notes out of the way here, and we are all ready to start. Alrighty. So you saw my fun wanted poster there that I'm looking for new hobby demonstrators, part-time, full-time demonstrators, anybody who just wants to enjoy being a part of this awesome Stampin' Up! Community, and in particular, my Merry Stampers team. So here's the card I made, and we are going to case this together and make two different cards. So I will show you here that I'm using the Arrange a Wreath stamp set. It does have a coordinating die set, although tonight I'm just using the stamp set. I've got my heat tool and my gold embossing powder and my Versamark because we're going to do some heat embossing for the wreath. And we're also doing some embossing using the Tasteful Textile 3D embossing folder. So let's get started. We're going to case this beautiful card. It's very traditional, very classic with the vanilla, the gold, and the real red. And here's the inside, just a simple Merry Christmas inside. So I'll set this over here. So for the first card, I have things everywhere. I'm always so organized, but it just is overwhelming. There's always so much. Okay, so for the first card, I'm using a card base that measures 4 1/4 by 11. And then I pre-embossed my Whisper or Very Vanilla cardstock with the Tasteful Textile embossing folder. And since we're on this, there's one thing I want to point out that I don't know if I've ever mentioned this before, but on our newer embossing folders, you'll see this line at the bottom. The purpose of that line is so that you can be sure that you're putting in your cardstock straight. You just line up your cardstock along that line and then close the folder around it. Now for something like the Tasteful Textile embossing folder, it doesn't matter if you're off a little bit, although when you look at it, it does have some fine lines. but for some of our embossing folders, that does make a bigger difference. That you'll want to be sure that what do I want to say? You'll want to be sure that I'm losing my train of thought. You'll want to be sure that things line up straight. Okay, so for this first fun fold card, I started with the 4 1/4 by 11-inch base. I'm going to cut the front panel in half. So I'm going to cut at 2 3/4 inches. Alrighty. And then I previously embossed this layer, okay? But I want to cut this in half. Now I had this measured out to be 4 1/8 inches wide by 5 3/8 inches long, so that I just have a very narrow border showing. But I don't need all of this if I want to put it on just the front, which you may have seen me do something like that before. But instead, I'm going to put it on the inside. Now I know what you're thinking, Mary, how are we going to be able to write on that? No worries, because I will show you. I've got a trick to keep me covered on that. How many of you have this Tasteful Textile embossing folder? The subtle embossing folder used to be my #1 favorite, my go-to, but this has become my new favorite. I think I tend to like the subtle, more simple embossing folders, although I have to say I love them all. All right, and then we are going to stamp and emboss this beautiful wreath. So I want to ink this up with Versamark ink. Versamark is very tacky, very sticky. You can even hear it kind of sticking, but you want to ink that really well. I just re-inked mine so it feels like it's extra sticky, juicy. Be sure to press down real well all the way around. Versamark is clear. Then I'm going to bring in my embossing powder. Just realized I forgot to use my embossing buddy, but it will have to do. Okay. And you see why I should have used my embossing buddy, because I've got some little specks of embossing powder inside there where I don't really want them. If you have a little paintbrush or makeup brush, that also helps to clear away some of those little bits. If you're not sure what I mean, here's an old makeup brush I have just in my craft room. It's really a little bit too big. I should replace it with something smaller, because there you can see I just smudged that leaf a bit. Okay, so when I emboss the next wreath, I'm going to need all of you to remind me. I'm putting my embossing buddy right here so I don't forget next time. But unfortunately, we don't sell this anymore, but using that fine paintbrush or makeup brush will help if you get some of that embossing powder where you don't want it to melt. Takes a few seconds for the heat tool to heat up, but then you'll see that embossing powder begin to melt. And then you just keep moving the embossing or the heat tool around your image as you watch all that embossing powder melt. You'll be able to see it goes from dull to shiny. Okay. And once I think I have it, I just like to go around it one more time quickly to be sure. Now, this dries pretty much instantaneously. You don't really need to worry too much. It's not, I mean, I'm already rubbing over it. You can see it's completely dry. So it really does dry very quickly. I'm going to now add this very vanilla square with my wreath is 3 3/4 inches square. The gold foil paper is 3 7/8 inches square. Okay, so I just wanted that little border all the way around. Now this is what I want to do with this card. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to adhere this, but only to this left panel. And here's what you need to remember. You don't want adhesive over the whole thing. You want to keep the adhesive just to the left side. So here's a trick to make sure. And you're going to, you still don't want to go all over here either, because our square is not going to go cover that whole thing. So what I like to do is put a little bit of this multi-purpose glue on the left edge, and then I also put a line of glue on the right edge of my flap only. So this way I can lay it down centered on the front of my card without glue getting everywhere. You see that I got just a wee bit right there. And I'll be able to wipe that off, and I have my little adhesive remover. So that's a good thing. Okay, so this is the front of my card now, and it will open like that. So before we finish off the inside of the card, let's decorate the outside. And you don't want to miss seeing how I finish off the inside of the card, because I want it to look really professional, have a nice finished, polished look to it. So I'll show you that in a moment. But let's just quickly decorate our wreath here. This ribbon is wonderful for tying bows. It's the Real Red sheer ribbon, and it's just nice and thin and light to work with. Alrighty, I'm going to put this right at the top of my wreath. And then I'm going to use my Take Your Pick tool to add some pretty red rhinestones. Put one up here. I think I'll do a cluster of 3 over here. I love this Take Your Pick tool. Probably the best $10 I've spent for my stamping room. And I use this putty tip the most, and then probably the piercing tool second, but it's also got a stylus and a little spatula end as well. But look how quickly I can pick these up and place them exactly where I want them with my take your pick tool. I'll put one right up here too. Oh, maybe I need a cluster up there just to, whoops, that was too fast, wasn't it? I feel like I need another one here to balance it out a little bit. Okay, there. And I like how some of them appear kind of behind the bow, so it doesn't look like I have just my embellishments along the bottom of the wreath. It's more realistic looking that way. Okay, so this is what I have so far. Not bad, right? I think it looks pretty good, but look what happens when I open it. There are two things here that are bothering me. Number one, I can't write on this texture. And number two, my whole card is based on vanilla cardstock, but here the back of the gold is white. So to not be bothered by that, I cut another piece of that gold foil exactly the same size as the first one. And I'm just going to adhere it to the back here. You could even do it with, if you wanted something less bold and out there, you could just cover it with a piece of vanilla cardstock. But I'm gonna go with the gold foil. And I'm just going to match up the top and one side and the bottom along the front, and then I know it will be on the back right where I want it. Now you could add a little something here if you wanted. What I'm going to do though is put some very vanilla right here. Now here's a square. I'm just going to stick with the square. If you want a rectangle shape instead, that's fine too. But my suggestion to you is don't make it extend beyond the front flap of the card. Just because I think it looks neater if it all looks clean like that. Now you're going to say, well, Mary, how are we going to get that centered just right where it's supposed to be so that's not sticking out and showing from the front? Here's my trick. I'm going to put my adhesive on one side. Then I'm going to, I've cut this the exact same size as that gold square. So I'm just laying it on top of that gold square. I've matched up my edges and I've got my adhesive facing up. I'm just going to close the back flap over it like that. Look at it from the front. Make sure everything's lined up. It's good. I open it up and voila, I now have this nice plain place to write my sentiment or stamp a sentiment. In fact, I should have stamped this before I adhered it, right, ladies? So I have to do this very carefully without making a mistake. And I'd say that's pretty good. Okay, so there's our first fun fold card with a completely different twist. I'm using the textured, the embossed cardstock on the inside of the card instead of on the outside like we typically do. So I think that's kind of fun. So here's my two cards. Case this. The square, the wreath, is pretty much the same, but I have a totally different card. Alrighty. Oh, by the way, this would be a good place to put a little pocket for a gift card, don't you think? We could just put a piece of very vanilla cardstock there, make a pocket and slip your gift card or your cash in. So I love that. And then I have one more. Oh, and by the way, you still have this piece that you cut off. So good piece of scrap, good thing to save for another card. Okay, so this fun fold that we're going to do next, I'm calling the split panel card. I'm not exactly sure that's the right name of it, but that's what I'm going with, okay? The split panel card. So, and again, I'm pretty much using all the same supplies and dimensions throughout all three of these cards. So I have my card base, which is 4 1/4 by 11 inches, scored at 5 1/2 and folded. Again, I have my very vanilla that measures 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 inches. And I've already, I'm not sure if you can see this, I've already embossed it with that Tasteful Textile embossing folder again. So now I just want to add this to my card front. And there are different ways you can make this split panel card, but I think this is the easiest way to do it, especially when you have layers like this, like I do, okay? And I definitely want that embossed piece on my front. So now I'm going to cut off part of my card front. I'm not sure. This is looking blurry to me. I have no idea. It's blurry on my screen. I hope it's not on yours. On my phone, it looks perfect, but on my computer screen, it's looking blurry. I don't know why that is. I didn't have that problem on Monday. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is cut off. I want to double check my measurement here. I'm going to cut off at 1 1/2 inches. So I'm cutting off from the front, card front. I've got it lined up at 1 1/2 inches, and I'm cutting this off. Save this piece. You will be using it. Then I'm going to scoot this over and cut off 2 1/2. And when I cut off the 2 1/2 inches, oh, Sharon, thank you. It's not blurry. So it's just something with my screen. And my computer was going crazy wacky earlier. I couldn't get the mouse to work, you know, the touch pad thing. Couldn't get my cursor to move. I had to shut it down and restart. I've been having some issues with my computer, and I hate to say it, but I think it's close to being time to replace it, which I'm kind of dreading because they're so expensive. But anyways, so I cut off 1 1/2 inches, and then I cut off another 2 1/2 inches. So set this aside. You do not need this for your card, but it's too nice to throw away. I'll have to find a use for that. So now, this is what it looks like. Okay. And that's why I call it the split panel card. And this is also why I think it's easier to just start with a full card base and cut it this way rather than try to cut up pieces and it might be off a little bit. And you know, something like this you can always use later. So this is what I find is the easiest way to do this. So now I'm going to go ahead and stamp this wreath with the Versamark ink, and we'll get that gold embossed wreath going before we put the rest of the card together. I remembered to use my embossing buddy without needing to be reminded. I almost forgot, but I caught myself. Make sure you press that down really well because you need all of that Versamark ink to transfer. And again, it's a clear ink and it's sticky and it's going to hold that embossing folder or embossing powder for us very nicely because of its stickiness. If you haven't used the Versamark ink before, you'll see a noticeable difference between this ink and our regular classic Stampin' inks. All right. Okay, now be careful too that if you have some of that powder on your thumb or your finger when you're holding the corners, to brush that off as well. So once again, we're ready to do the heat embossing. Just hold it in place a little bit until you see it start to melt. It'll get shiny. There we go. And I don't suggest you move it around like this. Don't move it quickly and fast. Nothing really happens. So you just want to hold it in place, moving it very slightly around the image as that embossing powder melts. You don't want to go too fast because then you'll miss spaces. Honestly, I never get tired of this technique. To me, every time I do it, it's just magic. It's fun. It always impresses me. I know that's probably a silly thing, but I just think it's fun and cool and neat, and I love it. Okay, so it's plenty dry. Dries almost instantaneously. So I'm ready to adhere it to my gold foil. Again, the Very Vanilla square is 3 3/4 inches, and the gold square is 3 7/8 inches. And who would like to win a card tonight? If you would like to win a card tonight, one of these beautiful cards, be sure to comment throughout. Every time you comment, your name will be entered into a drawing to receive a card. And I will also have a drawing for people sharing this video during the live. I know some of you have probably shared already, but if you haven't, now's the time to do it. Just be sure to share while I'm live. Okay, so this is how I'm going to put my card together. This time I'm just going to put it together before I finish off the details on the wreath, okay? So what I want is to have this piece lined up with the bottom and the sides of my card base. I want to put adhesive just along this edge and this edge. And then I'm going to put adhesive along the top and bottom edge only of this square. Okay, so I'm going to hold the top and bottom in place like that. Make sure everything's lined up nicely. And then I am going to simply lay this so that it is centered on that card front. And now do you see why I only put my adhesive along the edges of the card front the way I did, and along the top and bottom edge of the square? Just want to make sure that's lined up. It is. Okay. And this is what you have when you open it. Now, lots of times when I do the split panel card, I have a smaller image or maybe a long, narrow image here. It doesn't really matter because either way you get that that look of the split panel. But say for example on here I did a tree instead of, oh, I should use this one, maybe stamped a tree instead of using the wreath, and I had that, and then I would just have more of that split panel showing than I do on this square one. Okay, now at this point I'm going to open this up and look at here. Again, I have that white. I can cover it with a piece of gold if I want. I could use vanilla if you want to save that gold. I could put this here instead. You could put that bright bold red since that's our accent color. It can be whatever you want it to be. Okay, I think I'm going to go with the gold just because I think it's fun and flashy when you open the card. Okay, so I'm going to do that. Now I can't see the two sides, but I know that I can center this top and bottom or side to side, and then I'm lining up the two sides that are open here. And then you press it down so you can see that I don't have any of that white edge showing from the back of this second piece of gold foil. Now, here's something, and you can tell me what you think. We have these two cards so far, both of them horizontal. We can again make a horizontal card, so we can have a split panel horizontal card like this, or we can do a vertical card. Do you have a preference? First person to respond, I'll go with your choice. And I'll wait a few seconds for some responses. Do you prefer the vertical split panel card, or would you like to see a horizontal split panel card? First two votes are vertical. Oh, you all agree. Nice. Okay. Kathy, you're cracking me up. You have all the right letters in the wrong order. You type like I do. Okay, so we've got that decided. We're going to make a vertical card. Sometimes it's that autocorrect too, don't you think, Kathy? Crazy, I know. Sometimes changes words on us. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and make my bow. See, a few more people have jumped on. I'll make it just a little bit bigger, I think. Bigger loops. This ribbon is so easy to work with. I've been using it a lot of this real red sheer ribbon this season, and I just got two more bolts of it. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Let me always trim your ends off at an angle. That too makes it look, gives it kind of a more finished, polished professional look to your bow. And then I use a single glue dot behind the knot of the bow to adhere it. I'm going to put this right at the top there. That looks pretty. And then I will add my red rhinestones. One, two, three. Remember, when we're doing embellishments, we typically want to use, apply them in odd numbers. So 1, 3, 5, that sort of thing. It's a design principle that odd numbers are more aesthetically pleasing. So I'm doing some single ones. I'm letting some fall behind the bow as well. Do a cluster of 3 here. And I think that looks pretty good to me. What do you think? Okay. Which is your favorite? The first one? That was my sample. Or this fun fold? I might have to put something else here. I'm not sure what. Not sure what there. Or the third one, which is our vertical one. And you know what? I think we need to stamp Merry Christmas in this last one. Now I am using the Merry Christmas from the Arrange a Wreath set, but as you know, you can put any image in there, or any sentiment in there, and we have so many great sentiments. I was also thinking that you might want to take replace the red ribbon with a different one. Oh, you all like the third the best. Cool. I think that's my favorite too. But I was thinking that this card, with or without the red bow, I'm not sure. Maybe you want to change it up to a vanilla, that vanilla satin ribbon with the gold metallic edge would be beautiful on it. But wouldn't this be a great card for a 50th wedding anniversary? A golden wedding anniversary? Or even just any wedding, a wintertime wedding? How cool would that one be? And Sylvia, you like the first one. Cool. Okay. Fun. I like all of them. I thought I would say that this was my favorite, but then I went to this, and then I go back to that. I love them all, but the first one, I don't know. That might be my favorite. This was a close second and a close third. Okay, so to recap, this shows you that you can basically cut the same materials, the same sizes, and just change up your layout. Find new ways to use those same pieces instead of making every card the same. I should move this up. I'm still getting used to this black background. I think it's helping to people to see better when I'm working, but it's easy for me to lose track of my space that I have to be working in. So sorry if I was a little too short. Kathy, you think first, third, and second. I think I'm with you. And Sharon, you've got a lot of 50th anniversaries coming up. Awesome. I think this would be a great card for those anniversary events. Okay, so I hope that you will take the ideas you saw here, cutting the same supplies, same dimensions, and mixing them up and changing them up to come up with unique cards each time. And again, this is the featured stamp set, Arrange a Wreath. You can use this for weddings, anniversaries, perhaps a new job or a promotion. Best wishes, I think that would be awesome. Or somebody's moving away. Valentine's Day, Thanksgiving, Easter. So lots of fun things you can do with this. And you know, when I first looked at this stamp in the set, I was like, okay, what is that little box thing doing there? And then I realized, oh, this is like a wood sign, like a wood panel. So you could stamp this in perhaps crumb cake, anything like that. And then stamp your sentiment on top of it. Okay, and then we have all these fun little images to add to our wreaths as well. Okay, a reminder, today is the last day to sign up for those 2 classes to go that I showed you, the Peaceful Nativity and the Snow Wonder Snowman cards. And in celebration of me ranking number 76 in the USA and number 117 globally, and I want to say quick thank you to all of you, my viewers, my followers, my customers, my team members, my family, my friends, on and on. All of you have played a part in these achievements, so I thank you for that. And as a gift of gratitude, I would like to offer some free cards for Stampin' Up! Orders over the next 3 days. If you place an order of $35 to $49, I will send you 9 hand-stamped cards. It'll be a variety pack. And if you order $50 or more, I will send you 17 cards. I know those numbers are odd, but I came up with the 9 and the 17 from the number 117 ranking. So 1 plus 1 plus 7 is the 9. And then I pulled the 17 from that number. So thank you for being a part of my Stampin' Up! Journey. I am honored, I am blessed, I'm humbled, and truly, truly grateful. Not just today and not just when I get recognized with these achievements, but every day. I feel very blessed to be able to do this job. So I thank you for your support. And again, happy Veterans Day. Thank you to all of those that have served. Thank you to those that are serving our country now. And thank you to all of their families as well. Have a good night